That feeling of dread that gripped your heart as the shadows crept towards your bed in the deep of the night. Do you remember when the sun slipped behind the safety of the horizon for the first time and the icy gauntlet gripped you? You remember that fear, that terror in the inky black when the void would take the form of shadowy shapes, eyes and glistening teeth. You remember the fear of the dark.
This is when I wish I had, on the system, I had, sound clips. I wish I could play the howl of a werewolf in the background.
Nah, we spend big money on this one, and we get the Iron Maiden, the Dark song listed in the background. We'll blow our yearly budget on one song.
we don't need the licensing if we just don't take any money from this episode.
That is true, actually. Yeah.
They can't sue us that way.
Can we just do this then?
I'll do it in post.
With the dark running in the background.
But that voice there was fantastic. It always reminds me of like when I would listen to Lovecraftian audiobooks.
I always really enjoyed the speaking of Iron Maiden, the intro to Number of the Beast with Vincent Price, where he comes over and he's like, "For it was a human number," and you're like, ah.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, listeners. We have this episode is going to be based on the Magic 1994 set, The Dark. Personal, thematically, one of the favorite sets of mine because while it wasn't a very large set, I feel like it was a influential set. This was a low fantasy, like a gothic style set, which kind of in motion sets one of my favorite sets, which is Innistrad.
Oh, absolutely. This is the granddaddy to Innistrad. Correct. Before we had an entire gothic horror world, the Dark was the horror set in Magic. And it is really only kind of a snapshot.
Really thought about that, to be honest.
Yeah. And then because Magic up to leading this point was kind of classic old school 90s fantasy, right? A bit of a up and down wild ride of D&D inspired fantasy, and then this one was more of a reflection and a critique of where things can go. Speaking about gothic sets, for the listeners who don't know, there's also there's another card game similar to Magic called Sorcery, and Sorcery is coming out with a gothic set as well.
My baby,
and
Sorcery.
It's another low fantasy set, and if you have a chance, go check out Sorcery Gothic because the art from that set is also superb.
Yeah.
It is kind of really fun how sorceries, because obviously it's targeting like that 1993, 1994 Magic feel. It's actually kind of like mirroring the set releases. We had an alpha, we had a beta. The next set was Arthurian Legends, which is basically like Arabian Nights. Yeah. And then there was like a dragon set in the middle, right? Which was like the Elder Dragons of Legend.
Yeah,
and then now we're getting like a dark horror set. And it's like, oh, that's the Dark.
It's reliving that feel, which is kind of nice. I like it. I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's hitting on the basic stuff. This is a really fun set. I think I've said in previous episodes that I didn't think this particular set had a lot of lore to it. It was kind of one of these... it's a transition period of Magic between... the Brothers' War and then the Ice Age. We're kind of in between big story points. But the more I dug into it, the more I found, and I'm really excited to get into it. So I'll give us a bit of a background, right, on what we've done so far. This is what, episode 3?
This is episode 3, and these have been a fairly successful series. Between, I don't like talking about numbers, between Spotify and YouTube, we've gained like a good average, about 150 to 200 listeners.
Nice.
Solid.
Nice. So. Nice. And there was that one guy you told me about that like found this like totally unrelated to the podcast just as a lore thing.
We've had plenty of people just come up and say, hey, I was looking up lore. Hey, you guys out?
If that's you out there, like...
Enjoy.
Fuck yeah. Love you.
It's better than me yelling at our customers to then listen to my podcast.
It is true. I've been very regularly now on a end of a commander night or at a different event. I'll be like, if you guys are interested in Magic lore, we have this new series on YouTube and Spotify. Come check us out.
The
entire audience going, ugh, this again.
Yeah, and if I'm ever in there, I'll like throw in a random jab from a recent episode, just being like, "Did you know that there's a lesbian lobster?" and everyone's like, "What the? Okay, whatever. Let's get to prizes."
I'm glad we did start doing this because I love doing this with Matt, and the effort you put in is so incredibly high. And it's like, if you look at the next year of releases for Magic, there's not going to be a lot of points of lore that we can touch on unless you're beginning to become a Marvel expert.
I mean, there's a couple of universes beyond that I'm like, oh, I know what I'm talking about. I'm by no means the expert, but like Avatar coming up, I love the crap out of Avatar. Star Trek, I'll be able to talk about that kind of stuff, but for the most part, universes beyond, it's not my wheelhouse when it comes to lore.
This is double down my passion for Lorwyn. I think Lorwyn coming out in January.
Oh my god, yes.
I'm
yes.
quite excited for that set. So far, the art we've seen is very good. So far, the cards coming out look pretty fun as well. I like my in-universe at the moment. That being said, I do like Universe Beyond. I don't mind it. But the in-universe stuff definitely holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. From a gameplay perspective, Universes Beyond, it's been fun.
Rock and roll.
From a lore perspective, it feels like I'm malnourished.
Yeah. I can't bag on Universe Beyond that much when I'm in the process of right now of building a God of War commander deck. I enjoy the aspects of when I can have other hobbies come into my Magic the Gathering. I don't mind that. So
But we do this podcast for the fun of it, right? Like I like sitting down with you guys and having a chat. I like sitting down with William having a chat, like and the guests and stuff. It's really just because we like doing it. And I thought about doing something like left field for the Ninja Turtles one,
Yeah.
and just getting like a turtle expert on, and just hear some like just hearing some like turtle. Like
do we have any?
facts
Do we have
and
any
shit.
turtle fun facts?
Yeah,
Like,
some biologists.
we all know
is that what
that
they call
turtles
them?
can breathe out their butts, right? You know about that one?
Yeah,
They
yeah,
can
yeah,
what?
Yeah.
Turtles can breathe out their butts.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I'll throw out two
Turtle fact
words
one.
and see if there's any recognition in your eyes. The Black Rose. Anyone know what that means with
I know
turtles?
that as
Is that
a
the-
Yu-Gi-Oh card.
I thought that
That's-
was the boat from Pirates of the Caribbean.
No, that's
No.
the Black Pearl.
Oh, that's right.
Turn your safe source off. Turtles, Black Rose. That's the scientific sort of pseudonym for their dick.
Oh no, I know, but these turtles have a weird.
They
looking
have
penis,
a-
man.
They're like the
Huge
prongy
dick.
dicks. Like,
No, it's like it comes out. It's like the length of their body, and then it becomes like a thing.
It
at the
umbrellas
end.
out. It umbrellas
Nice.
out, man.
It's like the hand movement you give me is like maybe that's what gave James Cameron the idea for Aliens.
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine, or even probably closer, is the Predator's face.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the
Oh,
Predator's face
terrible.
without teeth. That's a turtle.
If you
dick.
think alien biology can be weird, man, there's plenty of real biology
There's
that can be
weird
weird.
shit here going on.
But anyway, back to the recap. Right?
Yeah, yeah. So episode 3, we've touched on the first sort of 2 big lore sets in Magic's history, and then today we're going to be touching on the third. We did the Brothers' War. That was the story event. The set was Antiquities. Great, big, massive impact on the story. The Brothers' War. This set especially will be pulling off a lot of the stuff from there. There's repercussions of that. Every single sort of event in the setting of the Dark is directly ramifications of the Brothers' War.
So we're still on
Urza and
Dominaria,
Risha.
obviously.
Yeah. As a pretty safe aside, everything is on Dominaria.
Okay.
For like the first 4 years of Magic, we have the entire multiverse to do, but no, we're just going to go to a different continent
It
on the same
wasn't a
world.
big consideration for the multiverse in Magic at that time.
Yeah, it's kind of like a nebulous concept. It's like, okay, the story is taking place on this one world, and you are hypothetically pulling things from different worlds.
Yeah.
That's kind of more the impetus. It's like, we're not going to go visit those yet, but we do eventually. So this is... this set is ramifications of the Brothers' War, but in between lore-wise, we had Legends, which was kind of self-contained stories, some of which took place before the Brothers' War, some of which took place during, some of which took place pretty much close to the era of the Dark. And Legends was really fun. But if we're sort of talking along like sort of main storyline, the Dark is kind of the next step, and it's going to be fun to get into because so this set deals with the bloodline of Urza a fair bit, right? Whilst the Dark itself as a sort of design set is really supposed to mirror and parallel and sort of poke fun at religious panic and satanic panic, and especially like religious zealotry, burning alive witches, that kind of stuff. The story of the Dark is about the ramifications of a giant war and how that causes people to just build fear into themselves, right? Like into their personality and their identity.
It's like the fear of the war coming back, or just the ramifications of like now the war has over, like resources are low, and like how they're gonna like push that around. I guess
It's a number of different things, and especially the fear of magic and artifice, just in general.
Yeah, true.
Right? They're like everyone from the lay person all the way up is trying to think, okay, what caused that war, right? And how do we stop it?
at the end of like the war, there was the Silex that went off and blew everything apart. Well, like I know eventually we go into Is this like the nuclear fallout time after that?
So the Ice Age? Is it
Yeah,
pre-Ice
so,
Age or
so
after
this
Ice
this is
Age?
pre-Ice Age. So this is what's referred to as quite literally the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
Which is a surprisingly long chunk of time. In my head, I'm like, okay, there's Silex Blast goes off. It causes the Ice Age. In between, there's a bit where people are doing things.
You can imagine this as before the world is cooled.
Yes.
Where the ash has now darkened, like almost metaphorically, but physically has darkened the planet. And then it's set people back to living like the Dark Ages in real life. Like people are back to being all medieval and peasantry and living under fear.
But
and
this
ruling.
is a long time.
Yeah.
I was thinking at most it's maybe like a generation. This is 386 years is the Dark Age.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So it sort of triggers a large shift in the continent, right? The Silex blasting causes the Ice Age to sort of be on its way. But over the course of the Dark Age, the ice like starts to shift and sort of slowly overtake a large majority of Dominaria, and especially the continent that this story takes place on, which is called Terracier. It's one of those words I've read 1,000 times, and I've never really said it out loud. Terracier.
It's like when you read a book and you in your head have a pronunciation for a character's name.
Yeah, every Game of Thrones character ever.
Until you actually hear it and you're completely wrong the entire
100%.
time.
Yes, absolutely. One of the first conversations I had with someone who had been playing Pokemon games on their DS and had only ever played them like single player, and they wanted to tell me about how Magikarp evolves into Gyarados, and I'm like, and they're like, yeah, it's Magikarp, and I'm like, no, okay.
Can't even photo for that, man.
He lost the
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So this is a long chunk of time, right? 386 years. Looking at wikis and things like that, we do actually have technically like a time reference in Magic. We have so this story takes place between 64 AR and 450 AR. That stuff is not particularly relevant, right? We can get way too bogged down in specific years things
Real
took
quickly,
place.
what does the AR stand for?
So AR largely stands for it's the Silex Blast, I believe, is kind of like the reference point.
After
Yeah, look, I can look into it
It's the
specifically.
noise the Silex made.
Yeah, after. Yeah. So, if you could look up what AR exactly means, I can get more accurate. But for the most part, I haven't really cared about the chronology of that. Right? It's not super important to me.
This part of Magic's storyline is still a little bit, here and there. The
Yes.
timeline is not one concrete follow through.
Yeah, and it's often very hard to tell, right? And if we're looking at the Dark is a small set. Some of the cards reference the story, the large majority don't, and we're covering a period of almost 400 years.
The
right?
Dark was only 122 cards.
Yeah, and like maybe 40 of those are actually sort of referenced to the story. So we start our story at the point of the Silex Blast, right? Urza was married to a woman called Kayla bin Krug. She was the queen of the city of Krug, which was that was depicted on a card called like the Fall of Krug. We talked about it in the Brothers War set. You had it up as one of the images.
Kayla never got a card until we revisited the Brothers War in the set The Brothers War.
Yes.
Where a bunch of characters that never got proper references actually got cards. It was really cool to see.
And she's largely important because she writes the main chronicle of the Brothers War. She writes a book in universe called The Brothers War.
So it's like her perspective that we actually understand.
Exactly. She's like, I was Urza's wife. I watched him, develop this entire thing. I talked to him about his entire past. Then he went and just like blew himself up, and it's sort of the account of that.
Yeah, if your partner blew themselves up and committed mass war crimes, would you be okay with that? Would you? It's
Probably
probably
his war crimes to save the day.
probably a red flag, right? That's breakup material.
Yeah. So Urza and Kayla have a child. Then that child has another child. So we're talking about Urza's grandchild, right? Watches their father die in the Silex Blast, right? So Urza, not even sort of really glossing over it, it just sort of happens on the sidelines. Urza kills their own child in the Silex Blast, right? But their grandchild survives. Their grandchild is then raised by Kayla. And this grandchild is a guy called Jarsil. Now, Jarsil is not a big player in the story, but he is kind of an important stepping stone to other stuff. He chronicles a lot of stuff about Phyrexia, especially because he rediscovers the portal in the Cave of Koilos, right? He goes into Phyrexia. He sees some stuff. He writes it all down.
I remember I couldn't remember where I got the name from, but now you've said that, I do remember. Yeah, 100. Yeah. It's like the name was sticking out somewhere. I was like, "Where's this from?" But
and he's unfortunately so much of sort of a stepping stone character that when we've gone back to sets like, for example, the Brothers War and then Dominaria United, and a lot of those side characters got things. He got shunted to the Alchemy set, right? So he got a card, quote unquote, but only in Magic Arena.
Yeah. So Alchemy is a gameplay mode in Arena where you can play cards specifically that are designed for Arena. The reason being a digital platform lets them design a larger design space for how cards work.
Yeah, they have cards that like only work in that format.
Correct.
So for example, Jarsil has a mechanic called Intensity, which means that he has a number attached to him. His starting intensity is 1, and it's like when you play him and when you do things, his intensity goes up, but that stays inherently attached to his card no matter where he moves, like your graveyard, exile, back to your hand, all that kind of stuff. So it's unfortunate. It's one of those cards that they can't ever print in real life.
there was a few cards that, as Arena started to get popular, they were not maybe cutting a clear line between that. There's a few cards that made it into Magic the Gathering, especially like in the Commander, the first Commander set that was printed funny. They were very clearly made for Arena. And they were doing stuff that took far too much tracking in real life to be able to manage what was going on. I don't have the example now, but we can talk about it, remember it later. But there was quite a few things where you're like, this is far too much. Like a computer wants to be remembering this, not you as a person.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And so Jarsil, funnily enough, Urza, when the Silex Blast happened, he ascended to becoming a Planeswalker, right? The Might Stone and the Weak Stone put themselves inside his head. They became glowing green and red eyes, and he wandered the multiverse for a long time, right? He comes back to Dominaria kind of just to check on it and finds this grandchild of his, Jarsil, sort of over there, doesn't talk to him, realizes immediately, fuck, he looks a lot like Mishra.
Yep.
Right? There's a family resemblance there. And Urza has this moment where he's like, I came back here to think about the ramifications of war. I came here to think about all these people that were angry with me. But that is trauma I was not prepared for, and just nopes out of there.
Yeah, there was I don't know how true this is. I remember reading some Reddit thread where the implication is that Kayla had a child with Mishra, right?
Yeah. Well,
was that Mishra and Kayla were kind of sweet on each other?
Yeah. If you look at the wiki, we know exactly who Jarsil's dad was, and then that guy was the child of Kayla and either Urza or Mishra.
Yeah.
So it's maybe Urza's grandchild or it's Mishra's grandchild. For the sake of the story, it largely doesn't matter. It's that same bloodline. And so Jarsil becomes a very important and powerful mage in his time, and he goes to join a mages college called the Conclave of Mages that was started by these two mysterious people who went by the pseudonyms Nod and Duck. Now, Nod and Duck were actually Ashnod and Tornos, who in the sort of waning hours of the war, in the waning kind of like time, started up this thing of like, okay, we need to sort of establish something new.
Yeah.
And because Ashnod was pinnacle in the Brothers' War of giving Urza the key to destroy.
Yeah,
Mishra.
she defects sort of like at the end. Like she realizes, oh my god, Mishra is going way off the deep end with this shit. I've done some crazy unethical science, but I can't abide this stuff.
Yeah.
And
I guess Ashnod and Tornos kind of become friendly to each other.
Yes, they do. They have kind of like a they have a rapport, right? Because they were both largely apprentices to
the figureheads
homicidal
of the
tyrants, right? On both sides. They're like, oh, I get you.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Ashnod's like, oh, I just wanted to like stitch dead bodies together into like mechanized horrors, and Tornos is like, I just wanted to make mechanical toys.
Yeah.
They get each other. So
You've got a business idea.
So in the waning sort of time of the war, they join up with a number of people that escaped from another sort of separate subgroup that I didn't bring up in the Antiquities called the Third Path, which was very much literally, it was Urza and Mishra were taking over huge chunks of the world. A bunch of mages made a third option, right? Let's kind of make our own little society / collection of people that are just another idea. We're not involved in the war. We are the Third Path. But the Third Path falls apart because it was assembled out of 5 sort of like a coalition of mages. One of them was the Brotherhood of Gix. So they were Phyrexian sleeper agents.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And Gix
Bloody
was still in
Phyrexians.
the shadows, lurking, planning, doing his
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So the whole thing falls apart, right? And so remnants of that, and then Ashnod and Tornos, they make the conclave of mages, and that conclave is going to be very important, kind of to this story. It's kind of the crux around a lot of which rotates. Jarsil becomes one of its very first students.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And later in his life, he rediscovers this portal to Phyrexia. He figures out, because I guess the magical knowledge is somewhere in his brain, being part of this Urza Mishra bloodline, how to not only walk through, but then also how to magically create his own portal to it using black mana, right? So Jarsil figures out how to open portals to Phyrexia. That's fucking huge. It's really good for the multiverse that he writes it down in his journals in a way that is almost unintelligible by everyone else. And then he is largely forgotten by history. Right? So, I mean, he wanders around Phyrexia and comes back completely unscathed, which is crazy. He describes Phyrexians as like big and disgusting, but stupid. So maybe he only just sort of saw like weird reject ones. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, true.
So Jarsil exists. He's important. He writes this diary. Then we're going to skip forward generations. Right?
Gotcha.
So the Conclave of Mages is going to be doing its thing. And in the meantime, the fears of the continent are starting to creep in. Mages and artifice caused this war. So a religious group starts to sort of creep in, and they call themselves the Church of Tor. They initially started as this like little hippie commune worshipping the dual sun god, Tor. But then very quickly,
like a pagan
like a pagan style thing, right? And then they start to be like, actually, we're going to hunt out and persecute and seek out mages.
I guess in this post-devastation landscape, life is hard, and for the average person, they're looking for an answer. And if this commune shows up and they're organized, and hey, these are the people to blame, you know, these peasants, they'll be like, hey, maybe that's correct. The world was destroyed by magic and artifice. Maybe they have a point, because life is hard. You have to think of this. It's like the Dark Ages.
There's an element of understandable to them, but they very quickly become sort of the big villain for this set. Is like this horrific religious zealotry of burning people at the stake, and in some cases going on just like genocidal campaigns. They're very anti-goblin. Anyone out there in the audience that enjoys goblins, you do not like the Church of Tor because they
Everyone's gonna have an
fucking
enemy,
hate
right?
you, right? They have an entire sort of like subsection of slurs specifically for goblins.
We'll definitely bring this up later, because I have a card I want to talk about.
Yeah,
related to that.
and that is actually related to this kind of thing. So, we as we're skipping forward a couple of generations, the great grandchild then of Jarsil. During that time period, we have the Church of Tor establishing dominance, and we have the Conclave of Mages becoming kind of like a safe haven / like protected school for mages and the developing of magic. This is actually the time in Magic where Magic the Gathering, the game, where magic becomes understood. Previously to this, most people didn't know how to cast spells. They didn't know how to read ley lines, summon mana, all that kind of like really basic
You
stuff.
were either someone that did it or didn't do it.
Yeah,
right?
there was a handful of like wild sorcerers, and then there were elder dragons that could do crazy magic. But for the most part, if you needed something done, you either did it physically, like in our real world, or you made semi-magical robots. Right? That was kind of
Artifice.
it. Yeah, artifice, right? So we have these two sort of. Well, I'll call them big players, but for the most part, when we're talking about the dark, just imagine like really scattered remnants of people, right? These are villages and townships that there's no longer cities, right? Like all the big cities collapsed or were destroyed, or all their men went off to war and now they all fucking died, right? They've had upheavals in leadership, all that shit, right? It's very much
in my mind. I do imagine it as little feudal kingdoms.
Yeah, it's very much like medieval Europe.
Correct.
It feels like obviously there's an American that are writing these stories and they harken back on their own historical references. It feels a lot like, do you know much about like the founding of the first settlers,
like the Pilgrims and stuff?
Yeah, in the the US, and because a big part of what they were basically all the original communities were people that were either pushed out of Europe or removed themselves from Europe because the turning of technology of things like gas, oil, and stuff they sought as like going against what they thought as religious structure. So they were pushed out, and they're mostly pushed into like
communities,
like Middle Europe before going there, and then like into the Netherlands and Germany, and then they only lasted there for a short period of like 10, 20 years, and then basically what they did was they plied their trade in those countries to then get enough money to then go to the US and settle there.
Yeah, or just get kicked out in many cases. Yeah, because I mean they were the Pilgrims, they were Puritans, right? They were very much like no, Christianity is the only thing that exists, and you need to fucking suffer in life.
And what we would classify as like old technology now, but like using like certain technology on ships, like ropes and pulleys and things, like there was a huge rejection of some of this stuff that we would think is funny now, but they saw that technology was going against their pure religious beliefs. Yep. So they removed themselves there. And what happened, like for a lot of the Pilgrims, is they very much were incredibly isolated towns where they were completely self-sufficient, and they wouldn't travel from one town to another for a big part of it because they basically either even people 5 hours away might not be the same level of religious as them, or they can't trust that they won't then take the resources that they've managed to secure themselves.
Yeah.
And sickness was rife. Like one of the crazy stories I've read, there's some of the ships that first came to the US, they talked about the sicknesses, and like people would come with 13 children, and by the time they got there and arrived, and it was like what they was led to believe they just paid all this money to be sent there was like fertile land would actually be like super swampy and it can't.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was life was incredibly hard, and they kind of caused people to live in these very zealous times, and you have to be fearful of everything around you.
Yeah, it's like if you just sort of remove the word America from what you're talking about, you are describing the setting of the dark. It's very much that.
Something that I really like about actually it was explained really well in a history thing that I listened to a very long time ago, was then if you're in these tiny little feudal towns, you're now in the US, and like that's why the witch burnings lasted so much longer there than in Europe. Like in Europe, they've been banned I think it was like 80 years before, 90 years before, and they're still happening in the like the founding of like what the US would have become, was because the fear was so deep. And it's like if you're in a tiny little town with like a little wood fence around you, when the dark comes in from the night, there is no.
You're fearful of like the wolves and
anything's out there.
Well, like a lot of paranoia.
And you're trying to seek reason to why your crops are failing, why your children are sick. You have to what is going on, and then you become hateful to things you don't know, and it could just be like this is a witch, burn her. Do you guys watch like much horror movies, and you always get the occasional horror movie that comes through and is set during like the Pilgrim times, like The Witch, for example?
Oh yeah.
And those movies always kind of like go into these people are crazy, and they persecute, they burn people, and it's what's fearful of the thing that lives in the forest. And it very much reminds me of that. The dark is a reflection of the horror movies of that kind of feel.
Absolutely, like that. The one I told you that card earlier, the white card, was that's the guy with a little like hat, and he's the
witch hunter.
Literally
the witch hunter.
It's he's standing there. It's like that's what I always imagine. It's like they would talk about during the Salem witch trials. Is the witch hunter would come in and he would burn like with the witches left, right, and center. And as obviously as
witch burning is a card. That's featured in the dark set.
As adults, we totally know that none of those are witches. You know what I mean? But some of the women were convinced that to them that they were witches
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like,
so many of the stereotypes that we adhere to, like witches these days, right? Like the warts on the nose, the old lady that cackles, or, like, has a cat, all that kind of stuff. Those were things that you could just be accused of as being witchcraft, right?
Absolutely.
They're just like, oh, yeah, she's got a warty nose, burn her.
and like, imagine being so fearful of everything around you that someone could convince you that your wife or your mother or whoever it is, and the neighbor you've known for 50 years is now, it could be this thing. It's like, clearly things were so desperate that any level of authority, somebody coming in being like, oh, I can fix this for you. You're willing to grip onto it as for dear life,
It's
right?
why the Dark set for me is such an interesting set, because it was such a reflection of historical like movements that happened in real life. When previous sets, for example, Legends and like the Antiquities, is very much a case of this isn't Earth.
Oh,
The Dark
they're fantasy.
feels like Earth.
Yeah. The dark does feel like Earth. Like, yes, we do have there's like bog imps and goblins and stuff in this set, but it's inspired by the same horror that we experienced in our own history. You then contrast that with when we got an entire like horror setting in Innistrad. There's vampires and werewolves and goose.
Goose. That's the ghost of a goose. Just so
Yeah. And like there's people that summon zombies back from the dead and stitch them together, and it's a very regular part of life, right? Like it's a different kind of horror. This is religious panic and fear and paranoia, right? And a lot of that comes from the Church of Tor, which then during the time of Joda, who is Jarsil's great grandchild. Joda, of course, being a character that has popped up in a couple of sets so far since we've gone back to Dominaria. Joda becomes very important, especially through the Ice Age story. This is kind of where his story starts. During that time, the Church of Tor gets a lot of notoriety, a lot of power. If you see any of the cards that depict the Church of Tor, I want to say there's a guy in this set called Tividar's something, not just his crusade, but also the Knights of Thorn, right? So the Church of Tor has the Knights of Thorn that are kind of like half bishop, half witch hunter, crusaders. Right?
Oh yeah, these guys are really cool.
Yeah. So they have these like red masks with like tears coming down. Right. They have hoods with spikes and enormous swords, and they ride on horses.
There's something to be said for like a religious like leader who's supposed to bring hope, but is also like decked out in military gear, essentially, right? It's like what the hope it brings is brought by what?
Yeah, exactly. And he's using a lot of resources and stuff to make his giant swords and his big spiky armor, and he's the one with the horse when the farmer could probably use that horse as well. Yeah, it's all that kind of stuff, and you probably have to pay tithes to him and all this shit. So, this guy in the Church of Tor, who sort of grows up as a like street urchin ruffian during this time, finds that I could have an influence in that church. There's this guy called Tividar of Thorn, and Tividar fucking hates goblins. Even in the Church of Tor, he is like, no, that magic stuff. That's kind of fine. It's the goblins' fault. Right?
Is there a specific reason why he hates goblins? Or was it just a convenient, this is the scapegoat, I hate these creatures?
It's one of those things that kind of happens where during this time where everyone's kind of scattered and there's like these feudal territories, goblins became a lot more kind of feral and bandity, right? They went from being just like a race that kind of kept to themselves in the mountains and things like
comedic background characters to a problem.
Yeah, now they're raiding people on the roads, right? The scant resources that exist, when goblins come and take them, all of a sudden that's a fucking tragedy for an entire village, right? It's not just one person being inconvenienced.
Like, how close to this US like pilgrimage things do we get? Do you think the goblins would maybe represent something or some people?
Yeah, definitely could be
race
true.
of people.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a parallels to be drawn there. I think they're kind of like a sort of insert race in this
just
set.
Any of the scapegoats.
Maybe like
any of the scapegoat.
Maybe like a misunderstood. It's easy to blame. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we know this in history all the time. When there's like this conflicts, you're always going to get a convenient scapegoat to be the enemy. So
Yeah, I mean, it's look at anyone that for an aside, if you've read X-Men, X-Men are kind of like a blank slate upon which you can apply bigotry of all kinds, right? They are a parallel for racism, sexism, homophobia, all that kind of stuff. The goblins are, at least for sort of a racism part, they are that, right? Where it's just like they are the one race that they didn't really do anything wrong. It's just they
any
get
Cranko, anyone play against Cranko will know what it's like to be racist to goblins. So you get that one mono red play in your play group, and you're like, oh my god, dude, I'm gonna have to put in way more board wipes in my deck now.
Yeah, what I usually do is at the start of the game, I get the other two players, and we start a committee about how to remove them from the community. So
you start to employ bylaws that sort of disenfranchise them out of purchasing housing.
Sorry, goblins can't sit here, mate.
You've got a section of the table that just says like goblin player, and it's like cutting off, and like there's no tablecloth.
We have
over that section.
Commander Knights.
Oh, jeez. So there is a card in this set that depicts this religious campaign of Tivadar in particular. It's called Tivadar's Crusade, right? And it's the art of it is honestly
It's
pretty
gruesome,
brutal.
man.
It's got like a goblin being like crucified,
gutted and crucified. Right? Yeah, I love it. Disemboweled, right? That's what I'm looking for. Disemboweled.
Yeah.
I love that this is the period of time in Magic where they lent into it. They were like, you know what, we're over it. We're gonna go in and show you gruesome and horrible art.
Yeah,
you know? And
like,
this is,
I think like Matt's like identified before, it's really setting these guys as the bad guys. Like this is what they're willing to do. It's like to put someone out of the rack and like do like that stuff. I also think it's funny as well. Like they're a big part of what. Something like werewolves, which has like come about like in that like pilgrimage time, is like why those stories exist, is because terrible things were happening, and maybe what as like responsible adults now, you'd understand that if somebody goes missing and they were kind of gruesomely murdered, it's most likely to be someone in the community that did it themselves. But people don't want to believe that because that allows fear to control them. So what you do is you create something mythological like a werewolf to have come along and do those things, because then they can be blamed on that other situation.
Yeah, it's like maybe it was someone in the community, but it's because they turned into this kind of monster. It wasn't necessarily them.
So you have like
infected. What
I find like a lot in like the parallels in the dark is like a lot of the white cards are the community necessarily not doing the right, like that are fearful of everything.
Yeah.
The black is a lot of the what's in the shadows, which is some of it's real, but some of it's completely made up. Like there's a lot of art depictions of things that are quite vague and not really understanding. And then you have a lot of the red very much as like the goblins and the nature stuff that's being kind of almost, they're just trying to exist on their own, but being punished for their existence.
Their nature. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like a great example is calling out one of my it's just a fun little Easter egg in Magic is Uncle Istvan. He's just a weird oddity. He's just a guy, right? Like you can just sort of imagine this strange hermit. He's being singled out as a thing to fear.
Yeah,
he's just a guy. I mean, he does have a big axe with a skull attached to it, but he's probably just scaring people off, right?
Yeah.
What I love about that Tivadar's Crusade art, in the bottom you'll see a peasant that's kind of cheering on. He's rallying the mob. You can really tell that it's not just a punishment for of a single goblin. It's a sign.
The representation.
He's put him up as a flag to rally on the mob.
Yeah. I mean, you look through just even the names of white cards in this set. You've got Angry Mob, you've got Preacher, you've got Witch Hunter, right? Like it's evoking a specific kind of fear. There's Fire and Brimstone, Holy Light, right? Fasting. It's all about this
religious order.
The church imposing order upon things. And going back to the goblins thing, whilst there are a couple of goblins in this set and a couple of goblin tribal things, this set features only 3 multicolored cards, and every single one of them references goblins. Right?
Yeah.
There is the red-black marsh goblins, which is depicted as a goblin so scary that even other goblins hate them. And there's the Scarwood Goblin, which is a green-red card, which are like feral, crazy goblins that it's so good that they keep to themselves, right? And then there's the Dark Heart of the Woods, which is something that's so scary that even the goblins fear it. Like everything is being compared to goblins in this set as that's our base level of we hate and fear this. So it's kind of interesting as well. Just like it's everything kind of strings from that, and the only creature type sort of caring things in this set is for goblins. Right. They are supporting each other, but even then, with the goblin shrine and the what is it? Like the rock sled and all that kind of stuff. Even the Goblin Hero is disgusting looking. He's like horrific.
Yeah, they really did the goblins dirty in the art off of these ones.
Yeah, it's not like the Phil Foglio style goblins anymore.
Yeah.
Now we're
No,
drawing
no.
goblins in a more traditional fantasy setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got the flavor text for Goblin Hero, who is just a vanilla, right? Is they attacked in an orgy of rage and madness, but only one seemed as focused on killing us on the sheer joy of battle, right? Like this is telling a story of a conflict where it's like, oh, the goblins were horrendous, but there was this one that was like really fucked up.
Yeah, they're taking away the fun piratiness of the goblins, right?
Yeah. So, Tivadar of Thorn, actually, to sort of show again like a parallel with the real world, because his focus is so much on hating goblins, he teams up with a wizard to hunt goblins, right? Like he's able to compromise his own sort of larger morals to focus in on his mission. He teams up with a guy called Rasputin Dreamweaver, who was a card from Legends, and also got a new card when we went to Dominaria United, and we got like the Legends from Legends, right? And that version in particular is very good at depicting it because he has like counters that you can remove to make white knights with protection from red.
Interesting.
Right? Like he can make Knights of Tor.
Yeah, these knights that go on crusades against goblins.
Yes, he's literally using his magical essence to make more Crusaders, right? And Tivadar of Thorn, whilst he doesn't have a card in this set, did have a card that shows up in the Time Spiral block. He was one of the few characters that we don't really find out about anything happening to him. He just slipped through a time rift and finds himself in, at the time when Time Spiral came out, modern day Dominaria.
Oh fuck!
His flavor text references the fact
himself somewhere
Yeah.
else.
it references the fact though that he slices his sword to come down on a goblin. A time rift gets him, and he still connects, but with a different goblin.
New goblin in the modern, like future version of where he survives is like, what the fuck did I do?
Exactly. Like he looks down at two halves of a goblin now, and he's like, oh, that wasn't the one I was aiming for.
You ever heard of
what
the
the
thing-
fuck? Where did the world go all around me? Why is it so like dark and desolate? Oh.
You ever hear, the thing like how crows can recognize like genetics?
Yeah.
So if your dad pisses off a crow and the same crow, you come across those crows like 40 years later, the crows will attack you. I wonder how many people have been attacked by crows and they just don't know. And they're like, what did I do wrong? It's like this, this is a future goblin like 1,000 generations later. And he's like,
Crows like your granddad was.
my great great granddad.
Fuck you, dude.
Thankfully, we don't have crows popping out of rifts in space and time.
Not yet, Matt. Not yet.
Okay, yeah. Or I haven't personally seen it. It hasn't personally happened to me. Apparently, none of my ancestors were dicks
Pissed
to
off
crows.
yeah.
Yeah. So, whilst that is going on, that story is kind of really there as like it's setting, its flavor. This Church of Tor and Tivadar and all that kind of campaign stuff. The through line of magic happens on the other side, which is the conclave of mages. And as often happens with groups of magicians and wizards and sorcerers in any kind of fantasy setting, whilst there is a lot of learning and scholarly wisdom, there's also a lot of infighting and bitching and like campaigning and scheming and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the politics doesn't go away, right?
Yes, and this is where we get the character of Ith from. Now, most players would know Ith from his maze, the Maze of Ith.
Yeah.
Right?
Big on hedges, I think.
Well, kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
It's in at least the depiction
Or,
of the maze in this set. The depiction of the maze in this set is like a funky brain landscape.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of meant to be evoking this idea of he hits you with like mind magic and traps you in his maze, his mind maze, kind of like, or like maybe inside your own mind kind of thing.
Yeah, beam of schizophrenia.
Yeah, exactly.
more modern depictions.
We call that Bluetooth in modern day.
Yeah, I was going to say the more modern depictions are like, no, it's just a maze.
Yeah, in the more modern depictions, it's just a labyrinth.
Yeah,
You know, I always thought that the card was a reference to like a Theros blocky thing with the Minotaurs, but no, it comes from the
No,
dark.
it's from a really old guy.
I do like
that
the
has
idea.
magic.
It hits you with like a sudden sense of clarity, and you start questioning your whole life. The maze is you like having to have like a midlife crisis. You're like, what choices am I making? Why am I like this?
yeah.
Why doesn't my mother love me?
If I can try and relate to the Gen Z, Gen Alpha with a reference here, Ith puts you in the back rooms.
Oh yeah,
Does
yeah,
does that translate? Right?
I get it.
Not to my
I'm in
ass.
the demographic. I get it.
Yeah, he puts you in like a liminal space where it's like everything's kind of normal, but seems to just sort
And
of
you
keep
can't get out.
endlessly replicating. You're kind of stuck there forever. Like imagine being stuck in a train station with no people, where every kind of time you go upstairs, all of a
Think
sudden
of it
there's
as
more
when you're
stairs to
having
go
like
up.
a bad dream and you
Yeah.
keep walking through places
Fucked
and
up
you
logic.
can't leave.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So yes, the Ith is the grand wizard of the conclave of mages, and this asshole called Barl goes, "I want to be in charge instead," and imprisons Ith in a cage. That's a card that's in the dark. It's called Barl's Cage, and he basically traps him in a cage over a bottomless pit, just so he can siphon his magic.
Oh, yeah.
He just uses him as like a battery for the whole school.
Nice.
And Ith goes fucking nuts. Like he goes crazy. He's driven insane.
Understandably, I guess.
Yeah, if
Over
you're in an
decades.
isolation chamber in over a bottomless pit, I would go insane as well.
Yes, and it's worth noting as well that story that I just sort of briefly talked about there, where Ith is trapped in a cage underneath the school by this guy called Barl, exists purely based on a author years after the Dark came out, misinterpreting flavor text. So there's a card in this set called Dark Sphere. Dark Sphere has flavor text that is attributed to Barl, Lord Ith. And the author read it as Barl talking to Lord Ith.
Ooh.
He instead interpreted them as two separate characters.
Yep.
Right? So I guess it was sort of implied in the flavor text of this set that Lord Ith was like a title. But when then writing the novelization,
Yeah.
he goes,
For a dozen
Barl is a
years-
guy and Lord Ith is a guy.
Yeah, for a dozen years, the cage had held Lord Ith. But as the pretender Marsil's power weakened, so did the bars.
Yes.
So that's the flavor text, right? And then I get where you're coming from now. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's so that's Barl's Cage, right? But Dark Sphere is the one I'm specifically referencing.
So it's supposed to be Barrow's cage, as in it's Barrow's cage because he's in the cage.
Well-
that was the initial intention. Theoretically, it could be taken either way.
Yeah, it's like maybe it's like his cage of magic. It's hard to sort of put myself in the mind of what they were originally intending. I go off the revisionist canon, like where we've kind of squared stuff together. This is a
Yeah.
weird case in which the card itself and the flavor text does become pre-revisionist canon, right? Where it's no longer we've invalidated the canon of how it's printed on the physical card.
Hey, maybe
Yeah.
AR means after revision.
I had a quick Google, I couldn't find
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah,
I like
okay.
it matches.
it does kind of match.
When we
yeah.
can't figure out our law, we'll just make it ourselves.
Go for it.
Yes. So, by talking about the flavor text, there, you've referenced the next kind of chapter of this story is that the Conclave of Mages attracts a wide variety of people. One of which is this baller pimp of a mage, Marsil. Now, Marsil did get a card. He has had a card for quite a while, not from this set, but from one of the old Commander products. It is a card called Marsil the Pretender, right? Marsil, in the books and stuff, has a very different physical appearance.
I believe he shows up in the Edgar Markov Vampire Precon.
Well, he's a Grixis card.
Oh, no.
So,
So he would've
I
shown
think
up
I want to say he
in-
showed up in the Eminence year.
Yeah.
Where we got all the Eminence ones. He was in the Wizards
the
one.
wizard one. That makes sense now.
Yeah. So he has a card that references
Because he makes curses.
he makes ring counters.
Yes. Okay.
And he can gain sort of all the activated abilities of things with ring
I get
counters.
it now. Yeah. I remember now.
Because he has
That is in the vampire one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. What? Was it the vampire one? No, it had to be the Kess one.
The wizard one.
Because Edgar Markov
Oh, yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
Martin.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
No, you're
It
correct.
was
Matt
the
was
Kess one.
correct.
He's
You're
in the
correct.
wrong colors. I was
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
okay.
Nephalia was the precon commander?
No. You're thinking of previously to that. This one was the Eminence Wizard. We're getting off track. Anyway, this is important. So Marcel is this like really dapper. He has like a gold cane. He has a big hat. He has a big fancy ring. He shows up to the conclave and he's like, "This place is awesome. I really like it." And he starts going there at the same time that Joda goes there. So Joda has, we're what, like 6 generations away from Urza and Mishra now. This is why this time period is so big. This 386 years, right? Is basically so that we can kind of zoom through all of that stuff and then get to Joda.
Yeah.
And Joda and Marcel are at the school, the conclave of mages, and Marcel uses his magical ring and the magic of who was previously Barl to imprison and contain Lord Ith and continue siphoning his magic. And Joda wants to break him free because he was contacted by a ragman. What the fuck a ragman is not really referenced a whole lot, but there is a card in this set called Ragman. And you can look around on magic wikis and things like that for descriptions of what a ragman is, but they're really just kind of like a magical person.
Cool piece of art.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a guy.
The flavor
they're-
text is also designed to be vague. It's just, he's just a silly, dirty little man. What's going to be afraid of?
That silly little dirty man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was, as Ith was being thrown in the cage, he magically made a ragman, right? I guess we can kind of call them. They're maybe they're just sort of like a created person.
Well, it's like a scarecrow or something, kind of.
Yeah, they're kind of like a construct of they look like a person, but they wear rags. They're built out of bits, right? He creates this ragman, and I guess after a really long time, the ragman then contacts Joda and is like, "Hey, do you want to come like free my master?"
Yeah.
But he has to say that really like,
I like to imagine it's like, the guy where the guy gets falls off the boat or something, and then he lives on the island with Wilson the Ball.
Yeah.
This is like, I like it. This his version of Wilson the Ball. he
whispering to him.
just believes in he's got like, he's in a cage, he's gone mental, and he's just got this like stack of rags that's his best friend now, and he's just like, "Ragman, contact safety, Ragman, please."
I like how easily he was convinced, just a mysterious stranger in rags was, "Hey man, I need you to help me free my master."
Yeah, I am sort of like speeding that process up a little bit, but it is fairly
In my mind, I
straightforward.
like to imagine it's like a Pennywise situation of there's a clown in the drains be like, "Hey kid, you want to come down here?"
Yeah,
Like he's sitting there on like the edge of town just staring at you, and you're like, "Who the
"Please?"
fuck is that
he's
guy?"
like, "Come at my master," and you're like, "Get the fuck away from
Go
me."
away.
You're like, "Hey man, next time I'm creating a saver, let's make him less freaky looking."
Yeah.
In my mind, especially because this is all happening just like at a magical school, it's just like this really weird janitor that keeps like going up to him and like tugging on his shirt and being like, "Ugh," and then pointing this way, and it's like, "No, I'm not going to go with you. No, I'm not going to go with you.
Yeah.
I'm not going
After
to follow
dozen
the
attempts,
janitor into the
finally.
basement."
It's like when the whole story of the dog is like trying to bring you to the well to save the kid in the
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
and like, how many people have just been like the dog's being annoying.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Stop
And
barking.
especially
at
if
me,
he's
dog.
this creepy, presumably smelly ragman, and he's trying to take you into the basement. You're like, "I'm not going to do that."
Yeah.
Eventually, Joda does secede.
So we're saying, these kids, if a strange homeless man comes up to you on the street, follow him wherever he wants you to go. You never
especially-
know what you'll find.
Especially if he has another crazy man in a cage in there.
You see the cage, you start backing away. You're like, I don't know, fuck this.
Yes, what I need to do is open that cage and let the crazy man out.
I'll follow you to the room, sure.
Yeah. So Joda at this point is kind of establishing himself to becomes sort of a main character-esque hero of magic. He is a descendant of Urza, but he's very much his own person. He's headstrong, but he's smart. He has also been able to find Jarsil's journal, and he like because I'm confusing myself. Marsil and Jarsil are different people, but Jarsil is a descendant of Urza that wrote a journal.
That's the one with the portals that are hard to read, right?
Yes, that Joda was able to read because I don't know. I guess he's able to understand his great grandfather's writing.
I get it. Yeah.
Right. It's that kind of thing. But Marsil, this dapper magical bad guy that's taking over the school, does know the name Jarsil because he has like a first edition signed copy of The Brothers' War.
Nice.
And he's like, oh, that was Kayla's grandson.
Also, they rhyme, which is important, I think.
Yeah. They're spelt differently. They might be pronounced differently out loud. I don't care. Like it might be like Jarsil and then Marsil or something like that. They're it's early 90s like fantasy names, right? You get Marsil, Jarsil, Joda, Ith, Marl.
Yeah. This is a Mario Wario situation.
Yeah.
I think it's like a lot of the classic like D&D characters and names and like even creatures they came up with, it just had to be sound like a new sound. It just had to be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You take a sound, you take a second sound that hasn't been paired with that first sound and you put them together.
100%, yeah. So many like classic like fantasy named characters are just like bliggity blobs and you're like, okay.
Go for it. You know what I mean?
I mean, hell, like movies were doing it at the same time as well.
Yeah.
Darth Vader.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like Dark Father.
Yeah.
Two words, two syllables,
you
go.
You slap them together, you make them sound kind of like words. Joda has this journal. He's able to sort of deconstruct it. He learns things about Phyrexia, right? Like this is a time period in which the Brothers' War in Urza is hundreds of years in the past, and the concept of this like, oh, this weird alien creepy ooze place that my great grandfather went to that discovered it from his grandfather, all this kind of stuff. Joda is able to depict the journal, deconstruct and sort of analyze the journal to replicate the spell that can create a portal to Phyrexia. But being sort of a naive young wizard, he tries to do the portal with white mana instead of black mana, right? He doesn't even think that you would have to use dark magic to do it. He's like, oh, it's my great-grandfather. This is clearly like a white mana magical lovely spell.
Yeah.
He doesn't think that it's tapping into dark magics. So the spell fails. He then makes the realization after the fact that it does require black mana, but he makes sure that no one ever finds that out, right? And especially Marsil, because Marsil is very interested in this concept.
Or easily corrupted.
Yeah. And especially Marsil's ring. Marsil's ring is tied to a long string of magical wizards. And this conflict between the two, after Joda then overthrows Marsil and Marsil's spirit gets like sucked into the ring and he just becomes like a spirit sucked into the little jewelry that then gets thrown into the it's a Sauron situation, right? Like it becomes a magical artifact. This will be relevant to the plot later, probably. The Conclave of Mages falls apart, as did the third path before them, right? And Joda goes along to another splinter magical faction, right? So we're generations of magical factions away.
Yeah. What we're learning, understanding is the magic is good, but they don't have good admin. They just like everything is no one's holding this together. There's no glue.
It's infighting, and we always happen to have magical dark wizards.
It's only ever held together by the figurehead. Once the figurehead's gone, then it falls apart.
It's like every generation of new magic group. They're like, hey, should we let the black magic guy in? They were like, nah. It's like, oh no, let him in. What could possibly go
And
wrong?
then a generation later, everything is black magic now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wish this wasn't a prominent point of reference for me, but of course there's Harry Potter, right? You've got there's the brave guy, the smart guy, the helpful lady, and Mr. Evil Snake Tongue, right? Like,
what could possibly happen?
let's all start a school together. Yes. Yeah, that guy's totally fine.
Yeah, the obvious villain, not villain. Yeah.
Yes, hello there. I am creepy fuckface. And they're like, yes, creepy
Cool.
fuckface.
He's not going to be the bad guy.
Yeah, you're not going to be. Yeah, it's a whole thing. They then end up. Hang on. They then end up migrating the Conclave of Mages to a new campus largely because the encroaching ice, right? Like the ice age now is really starting to get closer.
This
and
is them
closer.
aware of, the impending doom.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And so Terracier is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And the Conclave of Mages, which was based on a island in a section called Latnam, has to move to a new place, right? And it moves to this old magical city called the City of Shadows. And they set up the School of the Unseen.
Oh, that gets a card too.
That does also get a card. The City of Shadows is a really cool place. It's a great setting
Is it
for
cool
a
because there's
magical
not a lot of
school.
sun there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine moving to a
That's-
place called the
yeah.
City of Shadows. You're expecting it to be bad.
Yes.
Hey, guy, just as an aside, don't go in the shadows. Like, why? What's in the shadows? Just like, just don't
Don't
go
you
in
get
there.
stabbed, bro.
It's a fun place to have a story like this take place because the whole thing with the City of Shadows is that if you stay outside in the city too long and you weren't invited, you start hallucinating like crazy and start having like murderous intentions and seeing ghouls everywhere, and it basically
Yeah.
just drives you crazy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like it's
Why
kind
do
of,
people live here? Just leave.
This feels like a back to the US thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's whether you believe onto the pilgrimage, this stuff was whatever. But they think a big part of why so many of them were going so cuckoo was that there was like a certain type of mold that was growing in all their grain.
Yeah.
And it
Oh,
was-
yeah.
Right.
And it was causing them to hallucinate and think like the crazy stuff. And it's like this is like they tell me it's like, oh, don't stay out in the city too long because you'll start to see
You'll start
things.
going crazy.
Yeah, and really it's just because they're eating the
Something
bread,
in the water kind of
moldy
deal.
bread.
And yeah, so the thing is, if you're invited into the City of Shadows, you're kind of fine.
You're gonna be fine.
And hey, don't stay outside for too long. Stay in the buildings and you'll be fine. But it's one of those things where, a lot of these like religious guys, they'll be like, we need to take down the evil society of wizards. And then they march in and then they can't find anybody because everyone's hiding inside. And then eventually they all kind of start to go crazy and wander off and kill each other, right? It's pretty good protection as far as keeping to yourself is concerned. And that's largely where the Dark Ages kind of end from there. Joda goes on to become a much bigger character, and he's got some really cool stuff going on, but that's the Dark Ages of Magic.
Narratively, the Dark isn't much of a story to tell. It was more of
Yes.
the designers at Wizards of the Coast wanted to create a thematic feel set. Like, this is a set where they wanted to try out new tonal shifts, set up plot lines in the future, but also very much they wanted to draw art on a reflection of what's going on during that time. I want to briefly mention as well that we talked about this earlier, where the art director for that time, Jesper Mythos, I believe his name is.
You made me aware of this.
Yeah, this is
statement
very
that he's
recent.
put
This is
out.
like a week ago prior, where Jesper Mythos talks about, addressing the rumors around the Dark set, and he came out to say, yes, the Dark set was in fact a commentary on the evils and hypocrisy of like the super orthodox Christians at that time. Because during the 90s, Magic the Gathering went through a period of, I guess, what is the word? Like
It was the satanic panic that was
Yeah,
also
exactly.
tied, especially to Dungeons and Dragons.
So Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering were targeted as, hey, these things are corrupting your children. These are bad influences. These are cards that have satanic imagery. These are cards that are, referencing bad things.
Yeah, because the media literacy didn't go any further than I see a demon. Clearly, that's
Correct.
promoting the demon, even though the card in Magic will be like, I killed the demon because he was evil.
Yeah, and Jesper says having gone through the idiotic satanic panic of the 80s and listening to the moronic and unfounded pearl-clutching arguments that Magic promoted devil worship, I had enough and decided to hold a mirror up to them. He talks about how the white is represented as dangerous, dogmatic, and empathetic in the set. And the dark glorifies the ignorance, mob mentality, and the violence against those who are different. I'll post this up in the images as well if you guys want to have a read through his little blog here. But once again, I think for the longest time ever, you could see the Dark as a reflection of these things, but to have the art director finally come out and clear the waters, being like, yes, like
It's
this
strangely
is what it
relevant
is.
because it's like literally days ago where we've been setting up to do
It was
this.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
So
And we're as of recording this, we're 2 days out from Halloween. So
Yeah, happy Halloween.
it's very much a sort of season of the witch,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like this is the dark period of the year. And the Satanic Panic. Looking back on it, it feels nuts, right? Like that. I don't. You ever seen the little excerpt from an interview with AC/DC at the same time period, right? Where the interviewer was like, "Yeah, so your name is clearly depicted from like
Oh yeah, I've seen this, yeah.
a killing ritual demon covenant," and they're
Yeah.
like, "Nah, bro, it's just electricity."
yeah, I looked at the back of a radio.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's what it was. They were seeing anything that was counterculture, that was like a little bit darker, that reveled in any kind of like anti-establishment, which Magic was at the time. It was just like a niche hobby for nerds, and you see the worst in people.
I guess it was this is out of scope now, but during the 80s we had, with the increasing use of technology and like wide-speed media like television and availability of new media like radio, comic books and such, the old school control was kind of fearful and like panicky of change. And obviously that change brought on the fear of like, hey, these things are going to corrupt your children. And so that was the 80s was a reflection of that kind of deal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I could just talk for just a little brief period of time, when we then talk Joda, right? So
Is this the Joda I'm thinking of? The 5-color Joda? Mm-hmm. Okay,
That's the one.
So he has quite a bit of story
yeah.
to tell.
So after this, right? Like he'll go on to be part of the Ice Age story. He's also really tied into when we first meet. Oh god, I'm blanking on her name. She's a fire mage and she trains Chandra. And she's a Jay.
Not Kaya.
Nope.
Is it the one that's the mum?
She's the the old lady.
The old lady,
pigtails
mono red
with the
planeswalker.
goggles.
Wow, we are drawing mental blank. Me and
Yep.
Matt here.
Yep. I know it starts with a J.
She only just Jaya.
Jaya
Yes.
Ballard.
Well
That's
done.
the one.
Well done, young
We got there.
Yeah,
We know things about
Jaya,
this game.
such a cool character in the Magic
Yep.
storyline, just consistently gets very mediocre cards.
Yeah, and her storyline will start in the Ice Age when she teams up with her best friend
Because she
Joda.
canonically has been around for a very, very, very long time, and then she did die. Right in the more
Yes.
recent storyline, she has had finale.
Yeah, she has died. She has died previously. Again, we'll get to it.
Sure.
But Joda, in his time kind of from here to the Ice Age, has a couple of side adventures. One of which is very important, where he's this is how this character exists in this old time period and in current day Dominaria. Is that he's running through an old abandoned village, and there's this weird, fucked up like stone fountain with these 3 lion heads on it, that have a bunch of pigeons on them that look like they're like weirdly kind of caked in like dust and dirt. And goblins are chasing him. Everything at the time was goblins bad, right? So he goes, I have to hide, and the goblins are largely relying on their sense of smell. I'm going to jump into the fountain, and I'm just going to hide under the water. And the water is disgusting, right? It's like covered in like a weird silty mold, or not mold, like an algae. And he like has to duck under it, and he has to hide there for like a really long time for the goblins to go past. And he accidentally sucks in some of the water. And he can't cough or hack or like to let the goblins, know where he is. So he has to swallow it. And it's a moment of like, oh, that's fucking gross.
Yeah.
Turns out that was a card called the Fountain of Immortality. And
that's an actual card.
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
an actual card in this set, the Fountain of Immortality. The flavor text is fantastic because it's like it references how powerful it was and how innocuous it was.
Right.
Because it talks about how I don't know if anyone's got it up, but it talks about how
The fountain had stood in the town square for centuries, but only the pigeons knew its secret.
Yes.
So only the pigeons were immortal.
Those are immortal pigeons. Yeah.
I really want to know what it was like for the set to come out as a player during that moment, because you had around that time you had sets like the Legends where you have heroes and villains. These are named characters, very high fantasy-esque style of set, and then also then out of nowhere comes the dark. And as a player during that time, what was going through people's heads, where they're like, hey, this is such a big tonal shift for the game. This is a smaller set. What's going on? This is, well, there's a shift of games. There's no big named character in this set.
Yeah, I think it's very much kind of like here are a bunch of spooky stories. They sort of do feel disconnected, at least when you're looking at them and you're just like, check it out. It's like, this is the Scary Monsters set. There was Legends, which was just like, oh look, it's a bunch of badass like heroes and evil villains and big dragons and stuff like that. Antiquities you could point to as just being like, yeah, this was the Robot War set. And then the Dark is it's just creepy and weird and sort of gothic and very
Do we ever come back to the Fountain of Immortality? That feels like such a incredibly important piece of technology to just be thought of once and then never again.
It gets discarded. Because the thing is, Joda at the time doesn't even know that it's the Fountain of Immortality. It's not until many, many years later where he's like, oh, fuck, I'm not
He goes
aging.
back, it's all dry, the pigeons have drank all of it. They're like, fuck!
It's like, it was just a random place where he hid during like a tense moment.
I guess not noted, yeah.
Doesn't notice it. Decades later, he's like, I'm not aging. That's
Damn, I got
fucking
good
weird.
skin.
Yeah. And that's where another card in this set comes up, which is Joda's mirror, or the reflecting mirror, I should say, which is his mirror. The art depicts someone's hand looking at like a tiny little glass disc with a skull on it.
Yep.
Right? This is a magical mirror that Joda uses over the fact that he's going to be so over the span of the 4,000 years that he's currently been alive, up until like the magic current point.
God, imagine being 4,000 years old, man.
Yep. And that's the thing, is that the memories drive him crazy.
Yeah.
So what he does is he has a magical mirror that he basically tells his life story to. The mirror remembers. He then wipes his own memory, and then the mirror explains it back to him. So his memories, he still has knowledge of all the facts and things that happened, but they kind of feel like they happened to someone else.
It's like
They're devoid of emotion.
His brain doesn't have to hold all those extra storage. He can offload it every now and again.
It's kind of like when I was younger and I'd go out drinking and then someone would have to tell me what happened the next day.
morning. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of like that.
Like, that's the
Like,
other
I did
day.
that. Oh crap!
Joda wakes up and then he's like, he goes up to his mirror and he's like, what the fuck happened for the past 100 years? And they're like, okay, so here's what happened. And because it feels like it happened to someone else, he has no memory of
So
it.
it's traumatic, I guess.
Exactly. The trauma is removed from the memories. Like he's just like, okay, all right, sure. So that's the facts. Like, it's just like, I went here and I talked to this person and that person's my friend and I killed this guy and da-da-da-da-da-da. They're all just things that happened. So the mirror is how he stays sane for the most part. And so Joda will now continue to be an ever-present and existing part of Magic's story. He's just spoiler alert, he's going to survive until the modern day, and he's going to be largely kind of operating in the backgrounds. He's going to touch base with Urza a couple of times, right? He's able to meet his ancestor, and him and his ancestor are alive at the same time and largely immortal, but every generation in between them, super dead.
I thought of a great product crossover for Wizards. They want to pay me out for this one. Okay. It's like Where's Wally, but it's Joda, and it's just a Joda in different scenes from different points along the Dominaria thing. 'Cause it's going to always be there, so you could do like art depictions of different scenes.
I think they've done it already though, because they made Fipplethip.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Fipplethip is like lost in the arts on a bunch of places.
They did like the ones, but I would buy that book. I would buy the shit out of that book, where it's just like, it's Dominaria's history, but every single like major set is like a 2-page big fold out with a whole bunch of hidden Easter eggs.
Yeah, like different things happening, right? There's different wars, there's different things going on.
I love those Where's Wally books, right? Because as a kid, I would just spend hours looking through
so much going on.
All the little bits of what's happening.
The detail, right? Yeah.
I got one for my son the other day, like maybe last year, which was Where's Spidey? And it's a Spider-Verse one, right? So you've got all the various characters from the Spider-Verse, largely from the Spider-Verse movie, across a whole bunch of different spider worlds, which are just like filled full of crazy shit, right? Like Spider-Ham's world, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, those are fucking tricky, because you'll be like, I'm looking for
Spider-Man 4 out of 5,000.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking for a Ghost Spider, and there's like a shit ton of like people that are dressed in like the exact same color scheme, but they're all, it's a Where's Wally stuff. So Joda is going to be popping up a fair bit, sort of in and out of stories. He's also then going to make himself largely a background character on purpose because he's old, because he's ancient.
Dude, if I was 4,000 years old, I would also want to tap out of a few things.
Yeah, he changes his identity like a billion times. He goes through a time period where he starts like being like, oh yeah, no, I'm the son of Joda. Or no, Joda is a title that we've passed down between various people.
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
get it,
I'm
yeah.
not that Joda.
I guess it stops everyone freaking out around him.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, yeah. And especially there's like, oh, you're descended from Urza and you're alive for a long time and you're super fucking powerful and you have a magic mirror and you're.
We definitely want what you've got. So,
Yeah.
All right. Should we go into the segment where we talk about notable cards or favorite cards of ours? Starting with you, Matt.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of really interesting art and cards we can talk about here in the set.
Yeah, so I'm going to touch on my two favorite cards to play out of this set. These are cards that I will still actively choose to put in decks. I am excited to put them in decks. They're not pet cards; they are just good.
Yep.
Right. And the first is the Elves of Deep Shadow. This is a Monodork. It's effectively a play on Lana War Elves. It's green for a 1/1. It's an elf, but this time instead of tapping for green, it taps for black. You do have to pay a life to do it. But it's a green card that produces black mana, which means presumably you already got green mana to get it down, and now it's going to fix you into a different color. So it's one of those things that in a two-color deck or even three-color decks, that kind of thing, you do occasionally run into those hands where like you have all the sources of one color, but spells of the other.
Absolutely.
And Elves of Deep Shadow helps bridge that gap so fucking well. You're not going to have double green from it, but you're going to have green-black, pretty much guaranteed. It's also got fantastic art. I have an F&M promo of this card. It might be one of my like just low-key favorite role players in Magic.
The art is one of those ones where it's instantly recognizable. They've gone for like just for my first who did the art for this one has done for like a simple depiction of just an elf kind of blending into the shadows. You can see on her facial
She's just kind of creepy.
Little
She's
bit
making a lot
menacing.
of direct eye contact.
Yeah,
Like there's something
familiar
unsettling.
enough, but a little bit unsettling. Very much how the dark should be. I think he nailed the art for this one.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the other is the big one. You either love it or you hate it, or sometimes you go back and forth between the two. It's Blood Moon. I love Blood Moon.
Iconic.
Blood Moon.
Right.
I should clarify for people that mostly play Commander, I will never play Blood Moon in Commander. But in competitive one-on-one settings, I fucking love Blood Moon. It's such an interesting card to build a deck around. And in competitive formats, older formats like Highlander, it's something to always kind of be aware of.
It's the ultimate equalizer.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
true
It's the-
arbiter of someone spending
Yeah.
$5,000 on their land. You'd be
It's
like,
the balance in the format, you know. Without cards like Blood Moon, multicolored decks can just run rampant without any punishment. And there are cards like these that just police it, you know.
It's
the person
the-
that wants to go for the 4-color, 3-color deck, in their back of their mind, they have to consider, what if I get Blood Moon?
Yes, exactly. There's a downside to being greedy, right? For everyone that's going to be like, oh, I don't play Vintage and Legacy and those kind of formats because I can't afford duels and fetches and all this kind of stuff. It's like, nah, bro, just play Mountains and Blood Moon.
Yeah.
You actually have a genuine competitive advantage against those decks because it's so fucking good, right? And those games where you can go like mountain a mox of some kind, pitch a Simian Spirit Guide, here's a Blood Moon, and your opponent has 3 fetch lands in
And
hand.
just concedes immediately.
Oh, it's so
Satisfying.
good.
Yeah.
How good is the art for Blood Moon 2? Blood Moon has received a lot of different versions of art, and I always consider the arts, like every art for it's amazing, but the original one has a certain charm to it
Yeah.
because of how much more realistic he's decided to depict the Blood Moon.
Yes, it's a realistic depiction of what a real life event Blood Moon is like. It's
Yeah.
not a bright red glowing orb in the sky. It's a moon that has this reddish weird tinge to it. It's a dark night. There seems to be kind of a light sort of there, like a ring of something
Yeah.
that you feel like you're half seeing.
And the Blood Moon is very much a common thing in fantasy tropes, right? Like the full moon who brings an ominous like omen over the land. You know, this is when the werewolves and the vampires and the ghouls reign now.
Yeah, there is something spooky about the middle of the night, and there's this thing in the sky that is giving them
Because
power.
night is when like the monsters come out, and blood is very much a thing of danger, you know.
Yeah. Well, they're like in a lot of like fantasy depictions, you have the blood moon depicts that like killing happened that night. So it's like
Yes.
so you have the concept of like there's the fear is so integrated into the people that live in the society that pretty much anything is a harbinger of something bad has happened. So even if it has happened in your
bad
town,
omen, right? You're just like, oh, something fucking terrible happened.
yeah. So it's like even if the murder didn't happen in your town, you don't know that not like 3 hours away in another town it has happened there, and it could be coming for you.
And then Blood Moon is such an iconic card throughout Magic's gameplay and history. Whenever I think of the Dark, I think of Blood Moon. You know, Blood Moon very much is a mascot of this set, I find.
Yeah, and it's a card that dodged the reserve list, like found its way into 8th edition, which made it modern legal, which then made it extremely playable in modern for a long time. It's a card that sort of has dodged being irrelevant a number of times because it could have just been an obscure card from the dark.
Yeah.
But then it found its niche, and as time has gone on, it's only become more and more relevant. I love Blood Moon. It's one of the best reasons to play red in competitive formats.
Yeah. Awesome card. Danny, you got a card?
Yeah, I think there's two or three cards I play very consistently from this set. I think the most common one would be Maze of Ith. Like it's a colorless card. Land, so it's going into every deck that you want it to go into, and it takes a creature out of combat. It can be both used to save your own creature from dying in combat when you weren't expecting it to be there, and it can also basically push off another creature from attacking you, or use as like a political tool against someone else, right? So it's like if you're trying to save a player when you know you need them to get in through another round, then you can use it for that. I think it's very prevalent in modern Magic where Voltron strategies can be hard and fast, and you even just having a Maze of Ith is a big turn off for someone to attack you knowing that it might be that. So you can just be like, look, I have it. You should just attack the other guy.
Like an untapped Maze of Ith is such a good like a rattlesnake where you're just like, I could do it.
Yeah.
Attack me, do something that I don't like during combat. I could do this. You maybe don't even have to ever actually tap it in an entire turn cycle. You just leave it there untapped, and it's going to have an effect on the game.
It's doing the work by being there. And it's a big, like playing, not so much in proper competitive Magic, but when you're playing Commander, like when you have a removal spell, I like to be like, oh, look, I have this. And you can show the table, and it's like that, like the stick is available, right? Whereas this land is doing that kind of thing for you.
Yeah.
And I think that it's maybe, as Hexproof and Ward has become something more prevalent in the Harkin old days of playing the game, a lot of things that would stop things being able to be removed is like the swords that have protection from colors, and their land being inevitably colorless allows you to target with any of them. So good two more niche picks. Season of the Witch is both a really cool piece of art.
Phenomenal card.
Yeah, really cool piece of art, and like a depiction of the time is there's the dark forest and then the eyes coming out from the forest, but it reads, at the end of each player's turn, all of his or her untapped creatures that could have attacked but did not are destroyed. If you do not pay 2 life during your upkeep, Season of the Witch is destroyed. Effects that prevent direct damage may not be used to counter loss of life.
This is actually one of
the
the
classic
picks that I was
irrelevant final bit.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of words that mean nothing, but essentially what it's doing is saying if you don't attack with the creatures that can attack, they're going to be destroyed at the end of your turn. And I'm a big fan of forcing combat. Like Goad has been something that's new that really does that. There's cool things that are force combat, and what does force combat mean? The game is quicker.
Yes, it's making things happen.
Yeah.
This Season of Which is actually one of the cards I was going to bring up and really talk about as well, because I just love the piece of art here. If you zoom into the art here, for me in my head, this is what I imagine like the Salem witch, the atmosphere of like the Salem witch trials, that was the horror of those pilgrimage times when this existed. You have the little, like, you can almost see in the bottom, in the darkness of the forest, you see the little bit of candlelight houses. That's like the omen, the skull omen has floated over this town. It's the Season of the Witch.
And the silhouette of the tree seems to imply like a jagged mouth.
Absolutely. And it's the frenzy of the panic, right? Because the idea of forcing everyone to attack is the idea of the people in this village are all vindictive against each other, and you losing 2 life is the idea of, for this vindication, you are going to pay life as well.
Yeah.
Everyone's included in this madness. This card is causing everyone to be crazy, and that's what the dark is.
Yeah.
So,
well, like the enchantments are very much supposed to be these magical, like fogs over the thing. So some of them times it gives everything haste, or like Blood Moon, it's a curse that it makes everything a mountain. In this one, it's very much causing the panic to consist, but then the witch is suffering because of what she's causing.
We've all played One Night Werewolf, right?
Yeah.
You know, and in my mind, in that game, when you close your eyes and go to sleep, the hound goes to sleep. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know, you have the werewolf go out and hunt someone in the night.
Like we are now in the era of fear.
Yeah.
This is the season of the witch.
It's for me. It's such a iconic card from the set to me, but also like it's just such a good representation of what the set is all about. All in one go.
Yeah.
Do you have any other cards, Danny?
I think for me the other one is Ashes to Ashes. Again, it's not by any stretch an amazing card, but it's a direct damage 3-cost spell that just kills 2 creatures and causes you 5 damage back. The art is really cool. It's very like conceptually kind of art of like clearly it's like the base level of a forest kind of thing going on, and it's just a good usable card in black that I like a lot.
I mean, hey, it's a card that scales well to multiplayer, right? You're just like, here's one card that kills 2 things.
2 things,
Boom,
and
done.
it's a card from a set where most people aren't expecting it at all, and it doesn't cause any surprises. But it's just a cool people. A lot of the young kids I'm playing with, they're like, "Oh, that's cool. I've never seen that before." And you're like, "Yes, old
You're
man."
like, I took 2 Doom Blades and I stapled them
There's
together. And then the young kids go, what's a Doom Blade?
yeah, exactly.
We're a broken record at this point, and we always talk about it how Commander more and more has found itself being funneled down into the specific number of these are optimized cards to play in your slots, but there are plenty of cards out there that don't see play that can absolutely be played in Commander, and I love the reactions of people players going, "Whoa, I didn't realize this card existed." Well, now you do, right?
And like the flavor text is all rivers eventually run to the sea. My job is to sort out who goes first, and it's very much a concept of like, you know, death is inevitable, so I'm just being the arbiter of who gets to go first, essentially.
Skipping you ahead in the queue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss in mentioning that Ashes to Ashes is part of a 2-card cycle with another card called Dust to Dust, evoking that old sentiment. And the other one is a white card that hits artifacts.
Absolutely. I'm going to mention, for me, because the set is a horror set, there's like specific art that really stands out to me. It's not really a playable card. It is The Fallen. The Fallen is
it's so creepy.
Yeah, The Fallen is, you know, 3 black mana and then 1 for a 2/3 summon Fallen. And specifically the art of this is a creature. I want to say it's just a creature of the night. You know, I don't want to say it's necessarily a zombie. I don't want to necessarily say it's a ghoul or some sort of creature. It just is a scary looking creature, right? And this is their depiction of what a monster would look like in the night. You know, if you are scared and fearful and you're wandering down an alleyway and this creepy figure popped up in the end of the alleyway, this is what would be terrifying.
Yes, and it's one of those instances where like Magic errata, modern errata, does kind of ruin the effect of the card because yes, this does now have a creature type. Other than the Fallen.
Yeah.
But on the original printing of the card, you're just like, what the
Summon
fuck
a
is this
Fallen.
thing?
Yeah.
What is a Fallen?
And this is just a more traditional, like, scary thing of the art. You know, just someone like the artist just for my first once again wanted to just draw something terrifying. That's what he wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
And then there's so many cards I want to mention here. I mean, there's beautiful art pieces by things like Blood of the Martyr. You know, Blood of the Martyr by Christopher Rush.
Just like the blood tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just real zoomed in facial of someone's face with blood tears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Blood of the Martyr. Even the way the card works of instead of your creatures taking damage, you can choose to take damage. I really like the effect. It's reflective of the flavor of the card. But I want to make one specific mention. We've talked about if Blood Moon is the mascot of the set and a representative of, you know, what this set means and feels like, Leviathan is the butt of the set. Leviathan is the other end of the set. You have some really cool and interesting cards that are famously known for doing cool things, but Leviathan is infamous for being a bad card.
You kids today with your big creatures with good keywords and great stats that you can cheat into play. Back in my day, we had Leviathan and it had all downsides attached to a fairly large body, and we didn't like it.
Leviathan is one of those cards where I'm going to go running through it real quickly as well to explain what every step of this tragedy.
Just before, is the Leviathan supposed to be the Ice Age coming? Is that what that is?
Maybe it's a representation of the Ice Age.
Because
You're correct.
it's like theoretically slow moving and you're sacrificing lands, which you'll touch on in a second. But it's like maybe it's the slow forward push of like the ice. Like,
either that or it's just kind of like evoking the fear of something crazy in the ocean, right? You like, there's something horrific
Lovecraft stuff.
out
Well,
there.
it's like flying, right?
It's hard to.
It looks like it's enveloping all. So
yes,
but
I would say that looks like it's coming from the sky because that is kind of like a building.
unless I'm mistaken, I believe even back then, this card was just tragically unplayable. It was just, you don't. But it's a 5 colorless and 4 blue for a 10/10 with trample. Okay.
Which is huge for the time.
Back then, massive. Sure. 9 mana for a 10/10 trample is okay.
I also didn't realize that the keyword trample went back that far.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's from Alpha.
Evergreen. And then, okay, here's the first line of downsides. Leviathan comes into play tapped and does not untap as normal during untap phase. Sure. Sacrifice 2 islands during upkeep phase to untap Leviathan. And Leviathan may not attack unless you sacrifice 2 islands during your attack. There are so many safety nets built into this card, just in case this card was remotely playable.
So it's like you paid 9 mana for it. The next turn, you have to sacrifice down to 7 lands. Then you attack with it, and you sacrifice down to 5 lands. When you untap with it the next time and attack with it, you're going down to 1 land.
You're down to 1,
and that's if you had all islands.
I guess that
You get 2 with
You
this
are
thing.
you are blue, by the way. You're not green.
No.
You don't have rampant growth.
You
just have
waited
to play
maybe
the blue.
9 turns.
Yeah.
Like, there's some poor kid out there, like in 1994, opens their pack and sees Leviathan and tries to play it in his mono blue deck and gets donked on.
Just you wait till I get
Just
my
you
Leviathan.
wait till I get my ultimate creature. The kid plays
I'm
Leviathan.
gonna kick your ass.
Goes exactly. He goes to sacrifice 2 islands and then sacrifice 2 islands to attack, and the opponent plays unsummon.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
That game would have gone differently if I got to attack with
just
my
you wait till
Leviathan.
and then you swing at your opponent and you deal a total of 10 damage, and you got to do it again if you want to kill him.
Yeah.
There are so many safety nets built into this card here. I truly there are very few Magic cards as unplayable as Leviathan.
Yeah, I can see what they were going for, you know,
Yes.
and like we've had much better depictions of this kind of thing where it's like it's huge, it's slow, it requires you to do clunky stuff to
Yeah.
get it into play. These days, when we get a giant blue creature, it has upside.
Yeah,
right.
it's
You're
good.
just like, I paid 9 mana for a 10/10, and it had flash, and it drew me 3 cards, and it's unblockable.
Like Eldrazi, right? They're colorless. You can play it any deck. What's the mana cost of it that betrays? 9 mana?
12.
12 mana? Okay, sure. A little bit higher mana cost curve there, but it's colorless.
Or is it 11?
But we're talking about, we're getting to the level
think
of
it's 11.
when you pay 9 mana now for a card, or 10 mana, you know, around that ballpark,
Yep.
you have cards that end the game.
Yep.
So
I do like the idea of playing your Leviathan, you sacking 2 lands, and the Witch Hunter's like, bleh. Back to the hand.
Yeah, or just your ashes to ashes. You're like, I killed your Leviathan and a bystander for 3 mana when you spent a whole 9 for it.
Yeah,
And then
love
maybe you even do the thing where you had let them attack.
I am somewhat like, I've a newfound spark to somehow win a game of Commander against Kang with a Leviathan. No, like,
it's doable, man. Like, if you can circumvent the enter on tap, maybe, you know, you cheat it in with an effect like Elag the Raise Ball.
Yeah,
No,
true.
Elag saves red creatures, but you just sneak attack it in because it's already tapped and attacking, right?
I mean, but you can't, it doesn't sneak attack well. You have to sneak it in tapped and attacking, right? Because otherwise it just it comes in tapped and just like grinds to a
it's
halt.
surprise. I'll see you in 2 turns.
You know, if we ever like have an old school Magic draft again, you know, an old school Magic cube, and then you just have to take the chances. You just got to pick that Leviathan and commit and try and go for it.
You think we'll ever be able to like draft the dark? I wonder what the dark box is even worth. The dark.
God, they've got to be
A
pretty
fair
crazy
amount of the
expensive.
dark is reserveless, correct?
Yeah, a good chunk of it. Yeah, I mean, 100 cards that separated out to be, I think it was about like 20-ish uncommons. The rest of them are commons. There wasn't rare at this point in time. They were largely printed on just sort of 2 different sheets.
And were they still making sets every 3 months during back then?
So, kind of, yeah. So this set came out in August of 1994. Really, not that long after Legends, right? Like we've talked about this. Is that all 3 of our episodes so far? Those are sets that came out in the same fucking year, right? Magic has always had a packed schedule when it comes to sets. Largely, they were all being designed at the same time, right? So that you could just go boom, 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 release them.
Right.
You know, Yeah,
Especially with a smaller set, taking the 3 months, having a small set, and having to wait 3 months for the next set. That's quite a long period of development to get new cards.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much the era of Magic where new sets were kind of expansions rather than the next installment.
Absolutely.
You're like, I have Magic, and if I wanted my Magic to be more interesting, I can add cards from the dock. It's not just like, oh, cool, that's the new Magic set. What's this set going on? This is going to be a new thing to build stuff off of. It's extra things.
Yeah. Before we sign off from today's episode, do we have a little sneak peek of what to expect for next episode? The Ice Age in particular.
Yes. So, okay. Hang on. Let me just take a pause here because I need to check the set releases.
Well, while Matt does
inspire.
that, I have found a box of The Dark on eBay.
Yeah.
For $2,200.
2,200. That tracks for anything reserve list set wise.
It is in Italian though.
Oh, Italian The Dark.
So if
What is Blood Moon in Italian?
if our listener El Blado Muno. So if anyone wants to draft The Dark and also speaks Italian, hit us up. We'll get you sorted.
I like the idea of we have to play Italian The Dark, but not use Google Translate.
Oh, yes. Now, I've done a draft like that
Yeah?
before. I did a... oh no, it wasn't Dissension. It was Guild Pact. It was Guild. So it was original Ravnica block, and it was while during deck construction, you can look at translations on your phone. You can scribble notes, but then you play 3 rounds of Swiss, and you're not allowed to look at your phones.
If you forget what your card does, you just have to play it by just the raw stats.
And you weren't able to look at translations during the drafting, right? So you're just like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is a removal
you gotta
spell.
go in with
and
the
then,
research.
then you get back to like your deck building, and you're like, oh, it destroys a
fuck.
land.
Yeah, you accidentally draft Italian Leviathan.
I do like for some reason here in West Australia, the language that most kids learn in primary school. Yeah, I think it's changing a little bit to Indonesian and Chinese, but for when I was a child, it was always Italian.
Correct.
yeah,
I
it was
did Italian as a kid.
I have no concept. I know we had like quite a large Italian community here in West Australia for a very long time. I don't know, but I must have the relevance of why we're learning Italian. But I do like the idea of we do the draft, but we go find ourselves some out of work Italian language teachers, and each when you're drafting and playing the game, you can have every
call them
player
all up.
has their own Italian translator with them to help them along the way.
The Italian was because when we were kids, a majority of the immigration was coming out from Italians, right? It was that era of where Mediterranean people were immigrating to Australia, and often the translation, whatever's being taught in schools, is a reflection of that. Nowadays, kids have more freedom to pick and choose their languages. I think the big ones is like still Indonesian, Chinese, Japanese, French, and Italian.
much more relevant languages to like
more
our part of the
globally
world.
relevant versus necessarily what was culture at the time.
I think especially with like because I've talked to a lot of teachers when I was attempting to study at a university of that time period. You would largely go in for sort of an interview as a teacher and fill roles based on your life experiences. So if you happen to be someone that had lived in a country for a certain amount of time, you would be the language teacher, right? So like in my high school, Kinross College, shout out, I guess. No, but I don't want to shout out that time. That was dark. But our languages teacher, she did a gap year in France. That was it. So all of a sudden, we learn French at this school.
Yeah, cool.
That's it.
Whoa.
And like the relevance pushes away so hard. You're like, hey, you've eaten burgers before. You're like, you're a chef now. You're like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I had a guy that I knew from like extracurricular stuff that became a teacher during the time that I just left school, and he showed up to the interviewer and he was like, "Hey, I have like a major in science," and they're like, we don't need science teachers. Do you play an instrument? He's like, I play the guitar. They're like, cool, you're the music
You're
teacher.
done. Go.
The wild west of teaching.
So, do we have a little sneak peek for the Ice Age?
Yes. So the Ice Age is going to be coming up, but there is a set in between.
Ooh,
right. So just like going from Antiquities to the Dark as kind of like the actual progression of the story, there was Legends in the middle. We have a bit of a doozy in the middle in that it's a real fucking stinker of a set. It's Fallen Empires.
What a set.
Oh boy, Fallen Empires. So look forward to a lore-packed but fucking terrible set.
Yeah, not a lot of playables out of Fallen Empires.
We are going to have a hard time dredging up cards that we actually like out of Fallen Empires. And it takes place on a completely different continent to all of this stuff. It largely has no relevance to the story in terms of sort of the broader appeal, but we're just sort of going to look at a brand new pocket of Dominaria and the weird shit that happens in Sarpedia.
Is there another set before Ice Age, before we hit thing? Is 4th edition before Ice Age?
So 4th edition does technically come in. 4th edition comes in after Fallen Empires, but it's a core set. So I should mention, right, there are set releases that are going to be happening sort of in between these sets that we talk about, but those are core sets, which at the time were exclusively reprints.
I see. Okay.
Got it.
They were exclusively reprints. They had no brand new cards. So 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, blah, 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 all the way up.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that one there. As always, man, thank you very much for organizing and playing
Thanks
all
for
the
having
research
me
as
on.
well.
I am going to be really excited to talk about the Ice Age. I'm going to have to delve in deep into Fallen Empire's lore because I don't know a whole lot about
Either.
it.
Everyone always tells me that set's a stinker, so I never looked into the lore.
Yeah,
Right?
it's an interesting set, and it's one of those things that like occasionally has been called back to when we go back to Dominaria. It's got lobster people. That's the interesting thing about it, right? So yes, I'm looking forward to talking about lobster people for next episode. Anyone that enjoyed the Edge of Eternity's Commander, thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. All right. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your days.
Cheers, boys. Have a good night.
Fear the dark.